What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Mind of Marsal podcast. This is episode number 114. I am your host, Armando Marsal. You could find all of my work over at fantasyguru.com. Follow me on the Twitter machine at Armando_Marsal, as well as on Instagram threads and TikTok at Mind of Marsal. Before jumping into it, I just want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate you all. Remember, folks, if you're enjoying the podcast, enjoying the episodes, enjoying the content, make sure you follow, like, rate, review, thumbs up emoji wherever it is you're consuming the podcast. That does go a long way for the podcast. Remember, also, YouTube. You can watch this now on YouTube. If you're listening and you want to see our faces, you can watch it on YouTube. Any questions, anything you want me to discuss, any of that, email that to mindofmarsal@gmail.com, and I will make sure to discuss it here on the podcast. Well, week one is almost officially in the books. We still got a game here tonight on Monday night, but I will be doing a recap each and every week with a guest. And today, that guest is my guy, Rich Maletto. He is found on fantasyguru.com. You basically see his work there. He does NASCAR, NFL, a little bit of everything there at fantasyguru.com. My guy, Rich, how's it going, brother?
Good. How are you doing? It first week of football, Armando. I even forgot about the NASCAR race on Sunday until it was about halfway over because football's back. It was fun to watch some college football on Saturday too. Like I enjoyed kicking back, turning on the football spread up on the old TV with the six boxes or whatever, and I was like, it's fun to see real football again.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, having football on TV all day on Sunday, it's just something, it's special, right? Like for me, it's like, dude, this feels good. This feels good. I went on last night on Sirius XM with Russell Clay and Justin Fensterman. We were talking some football there, and it was just good to have football in the background while I was on the radio and watching what I thought was a phenomenal game. I'll tell you this, man. Week one,
Yeah.
the primetime games did not disappoint this year. Thursday, we had a great game between the Eagles and Cowboys. Sunday night, I mean, what a fucking game, dude. Like, those, in my opinion, are two juggernaut teams. I mean, I think we can all agree that these are going to be competing to go into the Super Bowl. You got two really good quarterbacks, two, really good teams in general. So I mean, ending the night like that with a game like that to me was awesome. So you and I today, we're basically going to recap the week. We're going to give some of our takeaways. We're going to go over some of the injuries. We're going to discuss some early look at waivers and just give thoughts, right? Like we already seen panic in Discord and oh my God, this guy didn't perform. Guys, it's week fucking
Is this
one. It's 1 week of football. If you're truly second guessing all of your draft day decisions right now, that you truly don't understand the process of fantasy sports, it is there is volatility. There is, people got to gain chemistry. We're going to talk about all of this today, but there's teams that have young players, new systems, new coaches, new situations. It takes time, right? Like it takes time to build the chemistry. It takes time to get the timing right. It gets time to just really get going for some of these teams. I'm not surprised with some of the slow starts. Yes, some are surprising without question, but I'm not surprised with some of these slow starts, and I'm okay. I embrace these situations sometimes because it does cause fantasy managers to panic and make bad decisions, I think, at times, right? Like I really do strongly feel there are going to be players this week cut that should not be cut. And I know you have a buy sell cut article that goes live on the site every week, and that's going to go out this week as well. And I strongly recommend everyone to read that because there are going to be players in there that you think you might have to cut that are not going to be on that article because we don't think you have to cut. But Rich, before we dive into it deep into this week one, overall thoughts, on the first week of the season here.
um overall thoughts? I agree with you on the primetime games. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think that Buffalo, with what, 448, 450 to go in the game, was still down by 15 points to come back and win. That's the type of football we like to see. But overall, it, typical week one, some sloppy football, some teams that definitely didn't look crisp, some stances by analysts, talking heads, pundits, if you will, that either appear spot on or completely out to lunch. But I kind of want to caution everybody. I mean, for example, I'm hearing a lot of Quentin Johnston talk, right? Hey, maybe we were out too early. I want to remind everybody the first three games of the season last year, Johnston was a hot name and a hot commodity. And I'll be frank, Armando, I was working. I did not get to see Friday night's game. I saw a little bit of the highlights. I still see body catches. I heard one of the touchdown catches by Johnston was with his hands. I need to go see that, but I'll maintain as long as they give him balls that he can body catch, he's fine. It's just not something that's going to hold up over the season. Just like last year, remember when the Saints started off like a juggernaut and we thought, oh man, the Saints might be a real team? By the end of the season, we had them labeled as one of the worst, if not the worst team in the NFL. They didn't look terrible against Arizona. Arizona kind of dropped the ball a little bit, should have put them away when they could, but it's week one, some sloppy football. We're going to see a lot of things change, Armando. I think that's the biggest takeaway. And I was laughing. I know we all saw the comment. Is it time to panic on such and such? Rule number one, never panic. First of all, because you make poor decisions. Two, week one, why are we already wanting to panic? If this was week five and we saw A.J. Brown with 5 straight games of, 1 catch, fine. I'm getting concerned. But week one, no. We see down weeks all the time on these players. Just like I had a buddy ask, you really going to start Calvin Ridley this week against Surtain? I get it's a bad matchup, but I'm not chasing and running away from matchups because we've learned hit the volume, chase the volume, because sometimes that bad matchup doesn't pay off. Sometimes it does. You're better off on the long haul, betting on the volume and letting the chips fall where they may. You're not, this idea that we need to chase the maximum amount of points for our starting lineup, I think is fool's gold. I think it's impossible to obtain, and I think we do more harm chasing something that's unobtainable than there is in just it's like playing poker, right? Yeah, a 2-3 offsuit can win sometimes. That doesn't mean you chase it on every flop you get, right? I mean, we got to be smart about it, and it is funny to see that there's nothing I saw this week that has me completely alarmed on any of my takes, for example. Am I concerned on some? Sure, but it's week one. There was some sloppy football. It's going to get better. We're going to see some of these rookies come into form that haven't yet. I mean, the rookies are taking a slow start. Other than Bill in Washington, all the other rookies kind of were slow rolling. He was the one that kind of popped more than anything. And I think the concern there, and this is why we say don't follow the depth charts. Chris Rodriguez was ahead of him on the depth chart, and then all of a sudden it's a healthy scratch, right? Like, I was on Bill going into the week until we saw Rodriguez ahead of him, and I said, hey, temper your expectations. I still say Chris Rodriguez is a smokescreen. Well, he's already a smokescreen. I thought maybe we get 2 to 3 weeks of Chris Rodriguez, but I don't think that's even going to take place now. But other than that, I'm with you, Armando. Nothing. I was not shocked by the close games in Cincy and Denver. I mean, week one, are we really surprised?
No, and that's the thing. Like you mentioned it, right? Like there's going to be a lot of, close situations. There's a lot of sloppy football. Remember, not everyone gets reps in the preseason. Not everyone is playing preseason games. It's not like before, and 10 years ago or whatever the case would be, everyone played preseason. Like everyone. Pretty much everyone's playing now there's some players that don't get on that field, don't step on the field. So it's going to take time to get up to football speed. Yes, this is their job. Yes, this is something that they're used to. But at the end of the day, they still have to get to that speed, right? And some people, it might take a week, it might take 2 weeks, it might take 3 weeks. And you mentioned something about young players. Someone asked me earlier this week about, oh, are we cutting Jaden Blue? Like, if you're cutting Jaden Blue now, you should have never been drafting him, in my opinion,
Say
right?
then, why'd you draft him? Why'd you? The whole time was he's a stash and hope type of player, right?
Correct.
Caleb Johnson's another one. Yes, we expected Caleb to start out a little hotter, but we've been seeing it in the preseason and the talk off season. He's behind. He's not. He's making mistakes. And look, Aaron Rodgers is not going to play with you. I don't think Kenneth Gainwell is going to get that much work. In fact, I'll make a bet, Armando. Kenneth Gainwell's work is going to continue to decline from where it's at right now. It will be a slow decline, but it is not going to increase in work. We're going to see Caleb Johnson increase in work, right? But it's going to take time. And Armando, you and I've talked about this. 15 years ago, these guys were practicing in June.
Yeah.
Now they don't even start practice till the week before the Hall of Fame game. And then we're shocked. And then, like you said, used to even the quarterbacks would play half a game. They would play the first half of at least one preseason game. Maybe a quarter one week and two quarters the next week, but something along those lines. You don't even get that now. And to your point, we have one less preseason game. It, it's going to take some practice. And, I know like Jeff and Ted were talking about they expect Burrow to be a little bit crisper, because he played two quarters in the preseason. Still only two quarters. It's taken this team 4 to 5 weeks to get going in the past. Don't be shocked if they struggle the first 2 weeks. Like this is, I don't want to say this is predictable, but it kind of is. And it's just like some of the injuries that have popped up that I know you're going to want to talk about because, man, a couple of them are going to really hurt for fantasy.
Yeah, and like you said, maybe it's not predictable, but it shouldn't be surprising, right? It shouldn't be
Right.
surprising because, like you said, two quarters in the preseason against a division team that has seen you for so many years. They know what you're doing, they know your playbook. I mean, like, so yeah. And then you look at other situations like CJ Stroud struggled in week one. I got questions about CJ Stroud. I like him for the season. Nothing changes for me. I still think that the season's going to be bright for CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud appeared in 14 offensive snaps in the preseason. 14 offensive snaps. That's one drive, probably, maybe two, right? In one
Yeah,
game,
yeah, that's one or two drives.
like that's not a quarter of like guys like am I surprised that he struggled as much as he did yesterday? Yes, but when you start looking at it and you start looking at these things and then you also look at there's no run game. Nick Chubb didn't look bad. We'll talk about him. The run, there's no Joe Mixon there. You're missing your slot receiver. You have two young rookie receivers catching pass there catching pass. So like now things change a little bit. The dynamic changes a little bit. So you just gotta like see things for what they are, I guess, early on in the season and not place too much emphasis and be result oriented based on only one game. I feel like that's the mistake we tend to make. It's like we're now result oriented. Like, oh, someone I saw someone, tweet at Jeff, oh, your take on Kenneth Walker was awful. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, no, no, Kenneth Walker's returning from an injury. He was kind of dinged up. Like, it's okay if they ease him in. They have Zach Charbonnet. They can do it. Was
I
I
was just saying,
surprised?
what?
Was I surprised at the outcome? Sure. I wasn't expecting that kind of outcome, right? But when you look at it, right, when you look at it, yes, Charbonnet played more snaps, but Walker had one more opportunity than Charbonnet did. Charbonnet just played better and scored a touchdown. The difference right there. And the snaps, yes, that is alarming a little bit to a certain extent, but the usage was still very similar, very very similar. We'll talk about that here today as well. But I wouldn't be panicking, ladies and gentlemen. Like it's just 1 week, right? And right now, like Rich said, there's some injuries. Like this is where we got to kind of pay attention to. And the other things I'm paying attention to in week one is I'm looking at usage. I'm not looking at
Right.
outcome. I'm not looking at production. I'm not looking at performance. I'm not looking at efficiency. I'm looking at usage. Who's on the field? Who's getting the ball? That's what I'm paying attention to. And that's why later in the week, you're going to see my SnapShare article come up because that's an important piece. We're going to see the red zone review because that's an important piece. You have your article that comes out. We have Russell's article. That's the targets. These are the pieces that you want. You put all of this together to puzzle, and then you start kind of coming up with with some answers and some opinions and things like that. But if you look at the box score and you saw that your guy didn't light up the fantasy points, and you're panicking, you're doing this all wrong. You're doing this all wrong. So just that was a very long-winded, quick. What we said was going to be a quick overlook on the week, but let's jump right into some of the injuries, Rich. And luckily, so I think for the most part, we avoided serious injuries throughout the week, like lengthy injuries. Like I know in years past, like there's been season-ending injuries in week one, and things like that. For the most part, it looks like we've avoided that. Um, so Brock Bowers, he left with a knee injury. Initial reports are suggesting that he'll be okay
Sorry.
for week two, right? Like I think he'll be okay. Drake London, this is the one that I'm going to keep a close eye on. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. They called it a shoulder sprain and considered day to day. Again, to me, something I'm going to keep an eye on. Evan Ingram with a calf injury, that's concerning for me. Kittle with a hamstring injury, that's also concerning for me.
Yep.
And then Jennings with a shoulder injury. I I'm gonna. We should know more about that early in the week, but I doesn't seem too serious. He wasn't not. He did not look good before he suffered the injury, by the way. Um, but from these players, like, are there any injuries that you're concerned about? And if so, are you being active on the waivers to replace or find a backup plan? Because I always like to be proactive when it comes to these situations, right? I don't want to wait until my player is ruled out, especially like early on in the season because the waivers are a little bit more fruitful. There's more players out there and things like that. Once they start drying out, sure, you can play the waiting game. But right now, there's options, and there's what, three tight ends got hurt this week. It's already a volatile position. And these are three tight ends that a lot of fantasy managers were drafting to start. Guys like Hunter Henry, Juwan Johnson, Fanning Jr. are out there. Like, these are all guys you want to maybe consider if you're up, Kittle, Ingram, even a Bowers owner at this point. Although I do strongly think that Bowers is going to be okay. Like, I will say
I
that. Um,
I think he's fine.
but Rich, any of these injuries, are they alarming to you? And then what are you doing if you're a fantasy manager in these instances?
So Killer one is the most alarming to me because I feel like he was the guy with Ayuk out right now. The way the offense was rolling, his volume was going to be high. And the problem with a hamstring injury like this could be something that bothers him all season, Mondo. This could be something that if they really shut him down and let him rest, maybe he's over it in 4 to 5 weeks. These things tend to linger. Kittle's tough, but that's the one that I'm concerned about. Bowers basically downplayed the knee injury. The way he was walking around has me believing fine. I'm with you on Ingram. Ingram's had a long history of being dinged up. Last year, we were kind of blessed that he wasn't. And these calf injuries keep rearing their ugly heads, man. And we're seeing it a lot, right? I mean, that's been what has been really hampering CMC. So I'm with you. Again, it's another thing like the hamstring. Are we looking at 4 to 5 weeks? Are we looking at something that's going to bother him all season long? That one's alarming to me. If it's simple as something like a Charlie horse, he'll get over it. They'll shut him down. It'll be fine. As far as making moves at the tight end spot, I'm not getting overly aggressive. Not yet. You could potentially look at Kittle's backup, if you're really needing a body. I do like Hunter Henry. Look, Juwan Johnson played an incredible amount of snaps. He played 98.6% of the snaps, one of the highest of any player all weekend. The thing is, though, is the Saints are hurt at tight end. So for the next 2 to 3 weeks, I do think you could probably lean on some Juwan Johnson volume. I don't know that it's worthwhile to expect a long-term solution from him, although I could be wrong. I mean, Rattler didn't look as bad as I thought he might. The Saints are definitely going to have to throw a lot. I mean, we saw that this weekend with Rattler throwing 46 times in a game that really wasn't even that high scoring. The Saints defense did okay, but I just don't see the Saints teams being very good. So I could see Johnson, having some good volume. I do like Hunter Henry a little bit. I haven't looked at the box score. The Saints or the Patriots kind of were a little bit disappointing, but he's worth a look. But one name I'm going to throw out there that I think, and this is tough because I don't know that you can necessarily start him, and we don't really like carrying backup tight ends. But, let's say Kittle's out and you can throw him in an IR spot. Harold Fannin. Njoku played a lot less snaps than we've seen him play the last couple of years. However, there was a ton of two tight end sets, even three tight end sets. There was a lot of overlap with Fannin and Njoku, and Fannin led the Browns in targets. So, and the way I saw the game breaking down, if you remember last year, Mondo, Elijah Moore kept getting incredible amount of passing volume that went nowhere. Like he was getting 6 to 9 targets a week, but only 30 to 40, maybe 50 yards. Like that was like consistently. So he was like fringe PPR flex territory. It appears to me that Harold Fannin is kind of taking over that role. And what's been nice from the Browns' perspective is that allows them to run two tight ends out there so they can maybe run out of that formation, which they continued to show the run a lot. But Fannin led the team in targets. I mean, Judy and Tillman only had one less than the 9 from Fannin, but the yards were meh. I mean, it's a lot like we saw from Elijah Moore. 40 yards or whatever. But look, if we're looking at volume from tight ends, I was kind of shocked by how much volume Britton Strange got as far as targets. And I was shocked by how much volume Harold Fanning got. And these are two guys that are probably worth streaming. If you've got Mark Andrews, no, don't panic. Don't just rush to drop him. We don't have likely probably for another couple of weeks. So let's see it play out. But if you are looking at the tight end spot, those are two names I'm willing to take a shot on because I do think the volume's going to kind of maintain, and I would throw Jawan Johnson in the mix too. I just don't know that the long-term expectation will hold.
Yeah, I agree with Johnson. Like I feel like the long if you're looking for a long-term solution, that might not be your guy. Couldn't agree more with you about Fanning, man. And what really stood out to me, so you were mentioning Elijah Moore when so Fanning ran 41.7% of his routes out of the slot. Like they're using him like he was out there with David Njoku often. They're using him like kind of like a receiver, basically. Like that's what you're seeing
Big
Fanning
slot.
Jr. at. Yeah. So I think that that's here to stay. I mean, that's why they parted ways with Deontay Johnson, right? Like that, that was precisely why they did that. I think that that's exactly why. So yeah, I have them. So my weekly recap, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I have the weekly recap on the site, there at fantasyguru.com. That's an article that I post overnight on Sundays. And it includes an early look at waivers. He's one of those, tight ends that I have listed on that list. I do think that if you're looking for the help at tight end, he makes a lot of sense there as well. So I like that right there. I like that call. And as far as the receivers, look, I'm going to keep an eye on Drake London, but these situations when they're usually day to day, they're okay. You
Same.
know, may he play? He might be playing at less than 100%, but I do think he'll play, right? And the one I'm going to keep a close eye on is Jennings. This is a perfect example of rust, right? Like he looked rusty. Like Juwan Jennings looked rusty yesterday. He did not look great. We've seen him have some big moments, but he was someone that was dealing with injuries throughout the preseason and the training camp, and it's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some time. The opportunities will be there for someone like Jennings. I'll keep an eye on that shoulder injury. We'll always have our practice reports there, but fortunately,
What's your uh
go ahead.
what's your concern level on Worthy?
Oh,
Because I'm with you on London. When they came out and said day to day, it's something to monitor, but I'm not as concerned. And I will say this, keep Casey Washington in mind because Mooney didn't play. Casey Washington got some traction anyway. He ended up with, I think, 5 targets, maybe 6. He's been named that the team has really loved. He's been getting extra work with Penix. If London misses time, I think you got to have Washington on the radar because we're already seeing him out there with Mooney missing time. But I'm with you. I'm not as concerned about London. But I am, and I don't have a lot of Worthy, like literally none. Um, but I got to tell you, man, a shoulder separate. It looked like to me that he dislocated it and they popped it back in. I'm I'm concerned a little bit there, Mondo. I mean, is that something that's gonna hamper him the rest of the year? I mean, hopefully not, but Chiefs are already hurting at receiver, man.
well, it's officially like so. The report already came out. It's officially dislocated. He is going to
Okay.
miss time. It's not. There's not certain how much time he's going to miss, but I don't know, man. I've read. I'm no doctor, but I'm no doctor. All right, but I've read like once you dislocate, so they like easily pops back out, right? Like I'm not sure. He's a smaller frame receiver. That's what concerns me about Worthy, right? And that's my concern about smaller receivers always. Like you're
I'm
gonna get
with you.
hit. You're gonna get hit. He literally just ran into it wasn't like it's not like Kelsey tried to tackle. Like he ran into Kelsey's chest. Like it was like they ran into each other and then he dislocated his shoulder. Um yeah, I think that this is something that can linger. I would be preparing to be without Worthy if you were counting on Worthy. And like you, I think I finished with 61 best ball teams in drafters, and I only have I think one or two Worthy shares, if that. It's one I think. So like you, I'm not overly invested, but if you are invested, if you were counting on him, I definitely think you should be preparing. Hollywood Brown is someone that if he's out there, you should be strongly considering. 'Cause I just think by default he's going to get some opportunities there. Um, so yeah, as far as injuries concerned, though, that's it, right? Like this, it wasn't that crazy. Like, and for the most part, we avoided
Cross your
serious
fingers.
injuries.
We got
Yes,
lucky for a
yes,
week one.
yes, yes, we did. I went back and I looked at last year's week one. It was a little bit worse than this year. So,
Right.
yeah, we were pretty good week there as far as injuries are concerned. Rich, let's talk about a couple of like our takeaways, right? And talk about a couple of things that we looked at, and more specific, like we could start off in Miami here. I'm from Miami. I watched that Dolphins game, and Daniel Jones had himself a pretty good game, very efficient,
He
productive
looked
from.
legit.
He did. He did. I said this on Sunday morning, so I do the DFS show with Chris Rose. I said it. I'm like, I want to play Daniel Jones in DFS. I ended up playing him in DFS. I wanted to play him in DFS for a number of reasons. Number one, he obviously has a lot to prove. He's finally, in my opinion, playing with a supporting cast that is more well-rounded than he ever had in New York.
Agreed.
Yes, he had the weapons in New York like Barkley, and he had, big names, but he never had an offensive line, the running back, the receivers, the tight end, like all in one, offense. He's never had that. In addition to that, it's a Miami secondary that we knew going into the season was
It's
going to be
bad.
an issue. It was going to be an issue. We knew this. Like it was a steady report of the secondary is a problem. The secondary is a problem. Beat reporters saying they didn't look good, missing tackles, missing assignments in practice and training camp. If you're paying attention, you knew that that was going to be a problem for Miami. Yes, they have a good defensive line. There's no denying that. But you know what? The Colts offensive line did a phenomenal job protecting Daniel Jones. They really did a great job. Daniel Jones carved up this defense. And then the other side of the coin, that offensive line for Miami, if you look at our offensive line breakdown for in the draft guide, it was graded as one of the worst, if not the absolute worst. I believe them and another team both had D grades, right? It was clearly an issue yesterday. They were unable to protect Tua. They were unable to, allow him to give him time, any of that stuff. And this is a time-based offense. And if you're looking at this offense and you're seeing what happened yesterday, this is going to be a problem not only in week one, in my opinion, it's going to be a problem throughout the regular season. And yes, they're talented enough that there are going to be some big moments without question. But I think when you look at it over the course of the season, you're going to see more games like you saw this week than you are going to see those big moments, in my opinion, when it comes to Miami. This is one of those situations where if I invested in Miami, I'm going to be a little bit worried. And if I invested in Daniel Jones or in the Colts, I'm going to be very happy. Now, they play the Denver Broncos next week, I believe. So temper expectations because Denver does have a good defense, right? So if it's not this, he's not. I don't expect similar production than what we saw this week, but I do think this is a good sign of things to come for this offense. Michael Pittman looked good. They Tyler Warren looked really good. Like
Oh,
there's
he looked
no
good, man.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And listen, if you're paying close attention, it wasn't only as a receiver, and it wasn't only that little first down that they ran. He made some key blocks in this game for some huge gains. He's an all-around tight end, man. All-around tight end, special kid. I think this is one of those, outlier situations where you look at it and say, this is going to be another Brock Bauer year, like where the, rookie tight end has a big season. I'm not saying he's going to break records, but I do think Tyler Warren is in for a spectacular season this year. And I like this offense. I like what I saw. I don't think that was a fluke. I think that's here to stay. Rich, what are your thoughts on the Colts and Dolphins?
So first with the Dolphins, because I'll be quick with them. I think we could be talking about the Dolphins and the Saints potentially being the two worst teams in the NFL this year. That's where I'm at. Um, I didn't invest much in the Dolphins at all. I mean, I pretty much had Tyreek Hill as do not draft. I understand at some point there's a value there. I just didn't want any action. I'd rather take a shot on a Malik Washington super late as a stash guy, thinking maybe, Waddle or Hill gets dinged up and we see some volume from him. But I didn't even really want action on Achan, who did his job. I mean, if I understand the point, again, don't chase points, chase volume. The volume's there for Achan, so nothing to worry about. I was kind of high on Daniel Jones coming into this year because supposedly he's working with the QB whisperer, right? Like the whole reason Shane, I'm always getting his last name screwed up.
Steichen.
Steichen is there in Indianapolis was to be a QB whisperer, was to get that kind of rolling. And it hasn't worked with Anthony Richardson, and I'm not shocked. But Daniel Jones has flashed a couple of times in his career. He's more athletic than people give him credit for, and he's by far a better passer than anything the Colts have on their roster. So I kind of expected something like this. And look, Daniel Jones is going to be a buy. And if you're hesitant to, buy at a higher price, give it a week when they play the Denver Broncos. It's going to be a rough go for the Colts this weekend. But I'm with you, Armando. I think Tyler Warren's the number 2 target in this passing offense. I think Michael Pittman's number 1. Michael Pittman was an incredible receiver for us just 2 years ago. He didn't forget how to play football. Jonathan Taylor looked great, in my opinion, yesterday. I mean, he was picking his spots. He was running smart, wasn't looking to hit the big play all the time, took what the defense was giving him, and just was an overall thorn in their side. DJ Giddens came in and flashed a couple of times as well. So the offensive line, to your point, is performing. And I'll maintain, give me an offensive line and I'll plug and play at the other positions. That having protection for your quarterback and lanes for your running back can boost you so much that honestly, I'm at the point of teams want to have success. Start with the trenches and work your way out. We'll figure it out at the other positions. I'm with you on Daniel Jones. I mean, if you got Jones in a super flex as your third QB or something, you are loving life right now. You probably got yourself a QB2 for the rest of the year is basically where I'm at.
Yeah, I agree with that. And he has that rushing upside. Like he scored 2 rushing touchdowns.
Right.
I know they were short, but he does have that running ability. Like, yeah, it's not at the level of Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. I get that. Even Justin Fields, it's not that
He's
level, but he can run. He can run the football. He can get you a handful of touchdowns on the ground every season. Like that's the kind of quarterback you're getting. And again, it's a good supporting cast. You mentioned Michael Pittman. Like I feel like he's going to be a steal this draft. He was highlighted
agreed.
in the Armando's guys article and the podcast that I did. He was highlighted in that podcast and that article because I feel like you're getting a great value. Everyone tends to forget that he was a reliable wide receiver on a week-to-week basis a couple of years ago, and I mean, he had a quarterback that completed 50% of his freaking passes last year. Of course, you're not going to
Right.
produce. Like, how are you going to produce? So, I'm liking this offense, man. I think I think they're going to have a good season here. I think this is a team that's going to produce here. Michael Pittman, pretty much, I think is going to be an every week starter for a lot of fantasy managers here this upcoming year. I will say, DJ Giddens, go get him. If you're a Jonathan Taylor owner, go get
Yep.
him. Like, go handcuff your guy. We saw yesterday 18 snaps, 12 rush attempts. I mean, he's the guy behind Taylor, and he looked pretty good. Like, he looked pretty
He
good.
did.
I get it. By that time, Miami, I think, had waved the white flag or whatnot, but still, and if the offensive line looked this good and Giddens get some opportunities, I think there's going to be some potential production there if Taylor were to miss, or if they're blowing them out like we saw last week, right? Like, I mean, Giddens was in pretty much the entire fourth quarter. Um,
Yeah.
Another situation I want to talk about here, Rich, because this is one that I think a lot of people are concerned about and whatnot. Let's talk about the Seattle backfield, right? And
Oh,
you and I, we've discussed this a little bit before the show, but so Zach Charbonnet outperformed Kenneth Walker, right? Charbonnet played 30 of the 52 snaps, all right, and he had 12 opportunities. Walker played in 21 of the 52 offensive snaps. He finished with 13 opportunities. Charbonnet was the one that looked better. Charbonnet was the one that scored the touchdown. Big asked, are you concerned? Are you panicked? Where do you stand here? Like, do you have any concerns here about what happened in week one, or is this just 1 week and we're moving on forward?
this is where anyone who's panicking, then I'm going to blame your roster construction. There is only one league I think where I have Kenneth Walker and I don't have Charbonnet. I mean, I literally moved Charbonnet up multiple rounds if I drafted Walker. And this is where you have to pick your poison. And the reason I was that aggressive with getting a second handcuff running back that way, which when you do that, that limits you on some of the other options. You have to understand that. You have to build your roster accordingly. You're not going to fall into that tight end like a Tyler Warren that was going in that same area or something like that, or a QB. But I was buying into Clint Kubiak's offense. I didn't care if this ended up being a 50-50 split. I don't think by the time it's an end all be all that it will be, but I think a 60-40 split was always in play. If anybody expected an 80-20 split, I think they were foolish. So, I gave this example early in the offseason. I remember playing both Tevin Coleman and Devonta Freeman. This is the same type of system. And you have to understand that this could be what's going to happen here. Zach Charbonnet is too talented as a backup to assume, and we're going to talk about Trey Benson, I imagine, in the same light, but it is too good of a backup to assume that the team isn't going to find a way to get them the ball. So if you drafted Kenneth Walker in the third round, like I did in places, and I know people reached even more than that, and didn't back him up with Charbonnet, then I'm sorry. You created yourself your own dilemma, and you're going to have to write it out. And look, I don't know that. Here's the thing. We talk about chasing volume, Armando. Is 12 to 15 opportunities really low for any running back, or wouldn't you say that is typical? I mean, I would argue that the Chase Brown 21 carries is atypical, even for him, let alone you looking at it as far as a standard across the league. When I think the 12 to 15 carries that we got out of Dylan Sampson, that we got out of Walker, that we got out of Charbonnet, numerous running backs. I want to say Achan was in that same range. This is the expectation. And if you're expecting more than that, you need to adjust your expectations. And you might have wanted to just sort of realize that there's like five running backs that are going to do that. Kyron Williams, Derrick Henry, a few others. That's it. Once Caleb Johnson gets going, I think the 12 to 13 is what we're hoping for. I think if you were looking for more than 12 to 15 from Harvey or Dobbins, you were fooling yourselves. I think it's going to be the same way. Kamara had a little bit more volume and work. Didn't get a lot of work in the passing game, but played 78% of the snaps, which is high for him. But we saw Kendra Miller get work. So look, as the season goes on, I don't think any of these coaches want their running backs carrying the ball more than 12 to 15 times anyway. So if you're panicking on Walker right now, I hate to break it to you, you're going to be panicking on all your running backs for the rest of the year. There's like five running backs that on a weekly basis will start approaching that 15 to 20 rushing attempts a week, but that's it. So, you know what? Shame on you if you didn't grab Charbonnet when you grabbed Walker. You really needed to have the tandem. If you only have Walker, I hate to break it to you, there's no need to panic, but you better temper expectations.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the situation just yet. Like I'm gonna see it, play. I'm gonna see it through and let it play out the first couple of weeks of the season. Look, they have another tough match. They have no, it's not another. The first matchup wasn't tough. They have a tough matchup in week two, so it could be a rocky start here. But I agree. Like I think we all knew Charbonnet was going to be involved to some capacity, right? Like there's no denying that. I think that we knew that.
He's too
It's
talented.
Yeah, they have two legitimate running backs in this backfield, right? But it was Charbonnet that outperformed in week one, and that's all this is for me. Like Charbonnet outperformed. Kenneth Walker still had 13 opportunities. He had one more, like I mentioned before, he had one more opportunity than Charbonnet. So it's not like
It's a
Walker wasn't
50-50.
involved. Exactly. It wasn't like Walker wasn't involved. He was involved. It was just a matter of, it was Charbonnet's day, and that's it. Like I'm okay with it. I'm not worried. I'm not panicking. I still have, high hopes for Walker for the season. Like I still think that
You know
he's
what's
going
going
to
to
be
happen,
okay.
right? You know what's going to happen, right?
Everyone's going to
Everyone's
play
going to grab,
Charbonnet next week.
everyone's going to play Charbonnet next week or the week after, and it's going to continue to be a close to 50-50 split. And Walker, who has a little bit more home run, juice to him, is going to like we've seen from Walker, stop, 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 and then boom, big play, right? That's kind of been Walker's MO over the years. We're going to see Walker get two big plays, completely dwarf Charbonnet's production, and everybody flip out because they left Walker on their bench and they played Charbonnet. We know this is going to happen, Armando.
Oh, 100%. I'm waiting for it to happen. It's going to happen for sure, without question. We see this happen way too many times. Um, Another backfield you mentioned, and let's just jump right into it. It's the Cardinals backfield, Trey Benson,
Sure.
James Conner. Look, Trey Benson led the team with 69 rushing yards, but Conner led the backfield in rush attempts or in opportunities and in
Yep.
snaps, right? Like Conner
Yep.
had
Yep.
12 runs, he was targeted four times, 16 opportunities. He had 44 total yards, four catches, a receiving touchdown. Benson rushed for 69 yards, but that was a 52-yard run. He showed his
Yep.
explosiveness, right?
Yep.
And that's what he is. To me, he's still going to be part of this backfield. I said it all along. He was someone that was investing in pretty much, he's my highest owned running back in best ball right now. That's Trey Benson, just because I like this backfield. Look, this is Connor's backfield. I'm not in denial about that. No one's in denial about that. But you're going to see 8 to 12 opportunities on a week-to-week basis, in my opinion, from Benson. And every now and then he's going to have these big runs. He's that explosive running back. And if Connor were to miss time, this is Benson's backfield,
Right.
100%. He is going to get all of the work he can handle out of the backfield, right? So for me, I'm looking at this as if you're a James Conner owner, be happy with what you saw in week one. Yes, it wasn't a high-end production, but he did find the end zone. He caught 4 passes, led the backfield in snaps and opportunities. You want that. And hopefully, just hopefully, like we just said about Charbonnet, hopefully you invested in Benson. I've seen so many people asking me, do I drop Benson? Should I add him? Benson should be on every roster, in my opinion, outside of super shallow leagues. Like he should be on every single roster. In a 12-team league where there's 6+ bench spots, in my opinion, he should be on that bench. Like whether you're starting him or not, he should be on that bench. He's a valuable asset. Like I view Benson as a valuable asset because if he's out there on waivers and Connor were to miss time, you're going to have to unload your entire fab budget in order to get
To
him.
get
That's
him.
what you're going to have to do, right? Why wait until then when you can have this player on your bench? I look at this situation as very simple. This is James Conner is going to get his, and like you mentioned, right? Like he had 12 rush attempts. Look at the numbers where we just discussed with Ken Walk. He had 12 rush attempts, 4 targets, 16 opportunities. And Benson, what I think it was 10 opportunities total, if I'm not mistaken, in that range.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it was 9. It
or
was
yeah,
9 or 10.
yeah. So there you go. Like, so it's right there, the same numbers we just discussed, right? So I think we're going to see anywhere between 15 to 17 opportunities for Connor on a week-to-week basis, right? Where he's going to have his big moments. He's going to have his 2 touchdown games. We've seen this before when he's healthy, right? He's going to have 100 plus rushing yards and
And
a
he
couple
looked
of touch.
good.
He
To be
did look
fair, he
good.
looked good.
He did look good. This offense looked good. I know they were playing the Saints, but they looked pretty good. I was very happy. We'll talk about Maura Hanson Jr. in a minute now, but I was very happy to see what he did as well in week one. But I'm not concerned about the errors in the backfield. And if you held on to Benson, or if you drop Benson, you're going to have to go out there and get him now, right? If you're a James Conner owner, hopefully you have Benson already. If you don't have Benson, well, I mean, that sucks. But I wish you did. And no, don't go trade for your handcuffs because you're probably going to have to give up too much right now, right? So don't go trade for these handcuffs. Anything on this backfield? Like, I'm not
So
concerned.
I'm not concerned. What I found interesting is Benson played most of the third down snaps.
Mhm.
So it looks like this has evolved into kind of what James Conner was with the Steelers. First, second down guy with Benson getting the third down work. So that's why you see the increase in Benson's workload or opportunities and a slight decrease in what we've seen from Conner. What's interesting to me, though, Mondo, Connor's not the third down back per se, yet he's the guy that got the 4 passing targets, and Benson only got the 1 passing target, right? So something to just note and monitor is that because they have more faith in Connor as a receiver than they do Benson, and this is something they're slowly working him towards, and that's why they want him out there for third down reps to get, Connor a little bit of rest, maybe keep his longevity going. He is a little older. Meanwhile, giving Benson some good practice reps. I don't know. I'm not in the team locker room, but I would say it's something worth monitoring and noting. But to your point, I'm not fading or running away from guys that are early down backs. For example, if we see Caleb take this jump in Pittsburgh, what Connor is doing in Arizona is what we're hoping Caleb does in Pittsburgh. So I don't want people to turn around and think we're expecting Caleb to turn into 25 opportunities a game guy. No, we're expecting him to be that 15 to 16 opportunities guy, maybe closer on the 12 to start with, that Connor's doing right now with someone like a Warren on third down or Benson. And that's honestly what we're hoping Blue turns into, right? Is someone like third down back, a handcuff, the opportunities to get 12 or 13. Like I think people are so quick to drop players because they forget when they draft them what they're actually drafting. They draft on so much of this hype and have expectations that are unattainable instead of really being honest about what they drafted. We're drafting opportunities to get the ball, and with the ball, they get points. And not all the opportunities will be worthwhile, and not all the opportunities will come to fruition, right? So I'm with you. I'm good with Connor. For where you got Connor, I think you should be happy. You didn't get him in the first 2 rounds as a 3 down volume guy. You got him after people like DeAndre Swift, after people like RJ Harvey. You got him in the sixth and seventh round, where you now have the lead opportunity guy. And I'm with you in an offense that looks efficient enough, right? I understand Kyler looks usually pretty decent to start the year, but and honestly, the Saints defense I thought played better than I expected. If we're being completely frank, Armando, I expected this defense to be complete trash. I don't know. I think Miami's defense might be the worst from what I saw this weekend. The Rams look, we were talking about Stroud earlier. I think it was downplayed. The Rams have historically had a good defense the last 3, 4 years. They keep changing out players and they keep performing as a top 8, top 10 defense. This was no different this weekend. So, hat tip to, I mean, for as bad as the Saints look on paper, I don't, Arizona could take a step forward, don't get me wrong, but I'm with you. The volume was there for Marvin Harrison. I'll let you talk about that a little bit. McBride definitely looks like, if not the number one target, the for sure number two passing target in that offense, which I would say come up next would be James Conner or the running backs, even though we saw kind of a merry-go-round at the second and third receiver spot there in Arizona. But I think everyone should just pump the brakes a little bit. If you're getting 12 to 15 opportunities from your running back, that's RB2 with RB1 upside. That's what it is. The days of, Barkley, Henry, even I go back to Nick Chubb. How much did people gripe about Nick Chubb not getting the volume that we wanted him to get? Yet we keep drafting the guy expecting the volume, even though it never happens. Like, these coaches they've shown us what they want to do. They don't want to lean on a guy for 30 carries a game. They don't. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, you mentioned Marvin Harrison. Like for me, it's just quick highlighting him because he had five receptions of 71 yards and a touchdown. He was targeted 6 times. Just look, we wanted a step forward in year two. I think he, let some people down based on expectations. I do think expectations were a bit high for him in year one. I think the year two, they're more reasonable, and I think they're within reach. And I do think that this is a great start to the season. I think if you drafted them, this is exactly what you wanted to see, right? Like some efficiency. You wanted to see the chemistry there with the quarterback, and that's what we saw week one. It wasn't incredibly high volume, like 10 targets or anything like that, but listen, it was efficiency. It was targeted, a good amount of times. And I think that that's here to stay. I hope it continues in the upcoming weeks because, I have invested in him and I think we're getting him at a good price. So for me, it's just, hey, you know what? This is what we wanted. This is the kind of start you kind of wanted to see. If it would have been like a 2 catch day for like 20 yards, 15 yards, shit, like we're starting this again. But no, he was very involved. I think they made a point to, get him the football and getting him involved. So I like him here this year, and I'm glad I saw what we saw here in week one from him. Let's talk about your Cleveland Browns because I think this is a situation where we saw Samson get 20 opportunities. Jerome Ford played more snaps. Like, and now we got Judkins that might be in the picture very soon here. So I feel like, they asked me this question last night on SiriusXM, and my answer was I think it's going to be a pretty cloudy situation in the upcoming weeks. I think we could see a form of committee to a certain extent here. A three-man committee early on, and then it'll become a two-man committee, in my opinion. But I do think that we might see a three-man committee, maybe 1 or 2 weeks. But this is your home team. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this backfield, your takeaways from, Jerome Ford and Dylan Sansom in week one.
Okay, so a couple of things just to start off. One, we might see Judkins on the field as early as this week.
Yes.
That has been the scuttlebutt out of Cleveland, is that he's getting geared up. Now, my personal take, just like we've talked about, the lack of practice, I struggle to believe that someone like this is going to step in and have a significant role to start with. So I'm with you. Over the next probably 2 to 3 weeks, I think we see a three-headed monster here. Jerome Ford was the third down back. He played more downs overall because they were in more of a 2-minute offense at times, playing from behind early on. The biggest knock on Samson coming out of college was his pass protection. And that's clearly not been addressed. Otherwise, he'd been out there a little bit more in third down plays because they did target him in the passing game. I was kind of shocked that he saw a couple of targets in the passing game because he has been so bad in pass pro. So it was early down work for Samson. Ford mixed in, even though to your point, he played more snaps. Ford mixed in as far as the opportunities, more of the third down guy. I expect Junkins to take over the early down work as he ramps up. The problem is, like you said, I got to believe that's a 2 to 3 week ramp up, maybe 4 weeks. He's got to learn the playbook. He's got to learn all that stuff. He hasn't forgotten how to run, but he isn't in play, in playing condition. So I don't expect him to play a ton of snaps. His opportunities may not change as much over the 4 weeks, but his snap percentages are probably going to increase each of the next 4 weeks, right? Like we've seen this before, players on snap counts, but they get the same amount of opportunities, right? So the problem is, I think to your point, the two down or the two back situation ideally would be Judkins with Sampson mixed in. The problem is Sampson's not good at pass protection. Now, 6 weeks from now, are they more comfortable with him in pass protection? Potentially. If he's putting, because really pass protection is just mental. It's putting in the effort and it's learning to read the blitz pickups. So he could very well start to pick this up here very quickly and it be those two guys. But I'm with you. I think over the next 3 weeks, it's going to be a mix. And then I think we are going to see it more of a Samson Judkins combo. So if you're a Samson owner, enjoy the volume this week, maybe next week, but I expect that volume to decrease. If you want to take a shot on Judkins on the free agent wire, I get it. Just understand what his ceiling likely is, and so that your expectations match what we're getting out of him. I wouldn't expect this Browns offense has still got some issues, especially on the offensive line. So expecting Judkins to be a 20 opportunity guy, I don't think that's what he's going to be. I would say what you saw from Sampson this week is the ceiling for opportunities for Judkins. And I would argue, I'm not sure you're going to see the ceiling once we get going because I think the Browns want to use both these guys. I go back to 4 years ago when everyone was complaining that Nick Chubb didn't get the volume and Kareem Hunt was a guy worth rostering because he kept getting all the touchdowns. He kept getting the passing work. It's the same coaching staff. I think that same split and breakdown is what you're looking at here is Judkins being Chubb and Sampson being Hunt. And that's what the end-all, be-all goal for the Browns is. So I would say set your expectations accordingly based on what that was like a few years ago.
Yeah, I agree, man. I get asked a lot. We get asked, not I. We get asked a lot of questions about Judkins, and sure, stash, but I don't want to add him with the intention of he's going to be someone I'm relying on, right? Like, and I don't want to cut a valuable asset. Like, I've been asked about receiver depth. Like, to a certain extent, I just rather keep the receiver depth because I feel like I'm investing in the committee and I can invest in the committee in a lot of other places. Like, right. And that's kind of where I'm at with Judkins because I agree with what you're saying. I think we're going to see a committee. I do not see outside, and this is assuming everyone is healthy too in this backfield, right? Because things change, situations change, but everyone healthy in this backfield, I don't see a clear path to 20 opportunities consistently, right? For Judkins. Like, is there going to be a week? Sure. But are you going to be able to predict that week? Probably not.
No, and that the other part we haven't addressed, he still could potentially face a 2 to 6 game suspension.
Correct.
That's been the newest reports as well. So if you got Sampson, you hold him. And this is where I say roster construction matters, Armando. And I don't, and for some reason we struggle to get everybody to grasp this idea. I don't like drafting or rostering headaches.
No.
And in my opinion, Judkins is exactly that. Do you know which weeks to use him? Are you going to be upset when he scores 20 points on your bench because you haven't been able to count on him? This is why I tell folks I'm okay having multiple stash players like a Blue, like a Hunter, that were healthy scratches this week and got me 0 points versus chasing some of these middling points on the free agent wire. Well, don't you want points? Isn't some points better than no points? In my opinion, no, it's not. Because unless I'm putting those points in my starting lineups, they don't matter to me. I don't care if a guy on my bench scores 20, 10, 5, or 0. They're not in my starting lineup, so it's insignificant. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Well, you could use those guys. Sure, but if I'm splitting hairs every week trying to guess, is this guy scoring 5 or 12 points versus a guy that's been scoring 7 to 10 points, it's the same guy to me. And I don't want all these headaches because I'm going to get it wrong on a regular basis. And this is why, I was telling a buddy, I'm not worried about the matchup with Ridley. I'm going to chase the volume. If Ridley has 2 more of those catches that he dropped, all of a sudden it's a 12-point game. or a 12-point day from him instead of the 6-point game that he got. I understand the matchup's tough, but I want the volume. We can't predict the volume with some of these guys. And so I don't want the headache on my roster. I would rather make it an easy decision. And if something happens to a Kyron, if something, Judkins is suspended for half the year, whatever, then fine. I've got these guys that I know I can plug in and play and get all the volume and then some. But otherwise, man, we're just spinning wheels chasing points. And I think it's a pitfall of a lot of fantasy players. We talk about it all the time. Chase the opportunities, not the output.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. I agree 100%. Talking about chasing opportunities, listen, this is a backfield that a lot of people were afraid of investing in. All right. A lot of people were hesitant because they just did not know if the backup was going to cut into the starting running back and how much of an impact. And this running back is, in my opinion, when you look at it from a talent perspective, top five in the NFL. His name is Brees Hall. All right. Listen
Yeah,
carefully.
yeah.
Listen carefully. Brees Hall, let me just read some numbers. He had 21 opportunities. He played 37 snaps. So the snap share, all right, is not, it's about 60%, I think it is, because it was 64. So it was 30%, 37 of the 64 snaps. Everyone was afraid of Braylon Allen. Yes, Braylon Allen did score a touchdown. I'm not going to deny that. But everyone was afraid that he was going to take away from all the opportunities, that this was going to be a 100% workload and 50-50 workload here, split, whatever the case may be. Well, that was not the case. Braylon Allen, 6 opportunities, 20 snaps. All right. Brees Hall, like I said, 21 opportunities, 37 snaps. Almost double the amount of snaps than Braylon Allen had, right? This was a game where, I'll be honest, it took me by surprise. I was not expecting a fucking
Same.
34 to 32 game. So
I
in a competitive game, the Jets leaned on Brees Hall. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a fluke. This is what you should be expecting. Yes, there's going to be weeks where Braylon Allen sees those 10 opportunities, 12 opportunities, and maybe we see the 17 for Hall. But Hall is the running back to own in New York. He is the running back that he's going to produce for you. He looked really good. Like, he looked really good, involved in the passing game, like, really good in between the tackles.
mm-hmm.
Listen carefully. I know there was a lot of concerns. I was incredibly bullish on this guy. It's just when you have a talent like this, right? And then now you have a dynamic quarterback like Justin Fields. And I'm not saying he's great, but he's dynamic because he could run the football. He could throw. So defenses have to worry about that. This is something that New York has never had, right? Because I guess they wanted that with Zach Wilson. That's not it. And you're getting it with Justin Fields, man. And I'll tell you this, they lost that game, but they played a pretty good damn game. It was a really good game for the Jets here. I think that this is here to stay. I'm not concerned. On the contrary, I think Braylon Allen remains an elite handcuff, but that is it for me. You take away that touchdown, he's not giving you standalone value. So for me, if you were worried about this, I hope that this game right here, I hope week one really gives you that confidence in Brees Hall if you drafted him moving forward. In a tough matchup, he performed pretty good. I think that he's going to continue to produce at a high level, Rich. What are your thoughts on this backfield? Do you think this is a fluke, or do you think this is what it's going to be moving forward?
I don't think it's a fluke. The Steelers' defense is no joke. If anything, the biggest disappointment is both in the Steelers and Jets defenses. Those were two teams that we expected to have good defenses. And I mean, if you would have told me it was a 16-13 game, Armando, I would have believed you. The fact it turned into a 33-32 game is shocking to me, right? Especially since the Steelers know about Justin Fields after being on the Steelers last year. I expected them to really contain him a bit more. What I took away from the game is exactly what you said. Hall, focal point. And look, the scoring dependency article called it out, right? He was one of the few running backs that saw significant scoring from the passing game. That didn't change. I didn't know how much that would change with the quarterback change. It did. He was as effective in the passing game as he was in the running game. He looked good. He looked dangerous. Like you said, it doesn't even look like a time split. Even if Braylon Allen seems closer to the 8 to 10 opportunities, I'm still all in on Hall. I'm fine with it. Give Hall a couple more breathers. Doesn't bother me one bit. I was also impressed with the volume for Wilson. I think that stood out. I was also impressed with the Steelers' offense overall. Like, they got creative. They don't have a lot of receiving options, and they got creative. Like, I don't know if this volume for Calvin Austin stays, but he looked the part that we've seen, click with Aaron Rodgers in the past from the receiver position. So that's something that I want to monitor that I took from the game, because nobody had Rodgers with multiple passing touchdowns and no interceptions, right? Like, I mean, nobody saw that coming. What was it? 4 TDs, no interceptions or something like that.
Yeah, vintage
Um,
Rodgers right there, baby.
yeah, it was vintage Rodgers, and it was not vintage Steelers, right?
No.
Vintage Steelers would have been the run game crammed down your throat, and we didn't see that. Hat tip to Kenneth Gainwell. He looked decent at times. Caution everybody. This Kenneth Gainwell thing is a band-aid for the first part of the season. Mark my words. This is not going to hold up. We will see Caleb Johnson. Caleb didn't look overly impressive. Look, do you all remember when Jonathan Taylor started and we all hyped up Jonathan Taylor, and it started out the first 6 weeks? You could tell he just wasn't clicking. I made the comment that he was pressing. You could see him keep trying to break big plays instead of taking what's given to him. Caleb's doing the same thing. The switch will go off eventually, and they'll start taking what is there in front of them, and they'll start to jive with the team. Rodgers will get him on the same page. But the Kenneth Gainwell stuff, I think, is smoke and mirrors. It's just going to be a thorn in our side. If you got Warren, you can use them. If you got Caleb, you can't use them yet. If you got Rodgers, you got him as a steal. We're going to have some bad Rodgers games, but clearly Arthur Smith is trying to get creative. I mean, I did not expect to see as much passing, and I did not to see as much creativity that we did. Freiermuth was still a factor. Jonnu was a factor. DK, I think the Jets just kind of sold out to take him away a little bit. He still was a factor, and boy, they sure let Calvin Austin run all over behind that defense, man. I mean, we're not talking just bombs. I mean, these were double moves. These were, fake slants in, bouncing back outside, getting behind the defense for a touchdown. I mean, Calvin Austin, maybe it's not Roman Wilson, it's Calvin Austin that we should have our eye on there in Pittsburgh. But I'm with you overall in Hall. Fields looked decent. I had some apprehension with him, but with his rushing, ceiling, I think you can use them. And I really expected the Steelers defense to play tougher. Neither the Steelers nor Jets defense really impressed me this week, and that shocked me. I thought both of them would come with the hammer.
Yeah, I thought this was going to be a defensive game too. I had no interest in DFS. I was not really being invested.
Same,
Like, honestly, I'm being
same.
transparent here because I thought this was going to be a defensive battle. And it turns out to be Aaron Rodgers throws for 4 touchdowns. Justin Fields scores a total of 3 touchdowns. Like, it became a fucking shootout. I agree with you with Garrett Wilson, man. Like, I feel like that's here to stay. You saw it he had 7 receptions, 95 yards, a touchdown, 9 targets. Next best as far as targets, Brees Hall with 4. But this offense is very predictable. Like, this offense is going to be very predictable so long as everyone's healthy, and it's going to be Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, Justin Fields. That is it. That is what we're gonna. It's a condensed offense where that's where it's gonna go so long as everyone's healthy. Josh Reynolds will have 1 or 2 big games because, right? Braylon Allen will have some big games because. But
Mason
if
Taylor
you're
might have a couple of good
correct,
games.
Mason Taylor, correct. Because, but if you're looking for consistent opportunities week to week, that is where it's going to be each and every week, in my opinion. I'm not saying they're going to produce every week, but we're looking at opportunities. And that's what we started this podcast with, right? We're looking for opportunities. On the other side, I want to point something out because this is a perfect example of, like, now is the time to go buy Caleb Johnson at a cheap price because everyone's panicking, right? Let me explain something to you. We tend to forget that there's important parts of football that are not on the box score. Blocking. Why do you think Kevin Gainwell is out there right now? Not because he's super talented, not because he's an elite running back, because he's a veteran running back that can protect the quarterback, and it was a tough game, tough defense. At the end of the day, the Jets have a good defense. I know they didn't play to the part, but they have a good defense. Kenneth Gainwell's out there blocking, making those kind of plays. He was involved. I get it. But like you said earlier in this podcast, this is going to be a situation where we're going to see his snaps go down a little bit, go down a little bit. Maybe the usage will be there for a little bit, but the snaps, they'll still go down, go down, go down. And I think it was pretty clear. Jaylen Warren, 3.4 yards per carry yesterday. I'm not saying that he's a bad running back. I just don't think he's that early down running back that the Steelers want, right? I think he's more of that third down running back for them. I think that's where he fits in. really, when you look at this backfield, Caleb Johnson fits that early down back role. Like he does fit that role. He just has to get there, right? And by there, I mean he has to learn the pass blocking assignments because, like you said, Aaron Rodgers is old as shit. He doesn't want to get hit. He doesn't want to get blindsided. He doesn't want any of that stuff. And I'm pretty sure he
Well,
says, "Hey, if this guy is not protecting me, I don't want him on the fucking field." Like that's the truth. Like that is probably
yeah.
what's the discussion being had with the coaches and Rodgers. Like, and I'm sure give it a couple of weeks, he'll be all right. I think Caleb Johnson in a month from now, we're gonna be looking back at week one and saying, yeah, we kind of knew it was gonna happen. It just took a little bit of time. That's all. And I think what you said as well about DK Metcalf. I think he's going to have some really big moments here. He made a really nice catch where he made
Two.
that. Yes, too. But the one I'm referring to, the one he caught, moved the defender, got that first down. He
Yep.
was like about 5 yards away from the first down, man. He made it happen. Like when you do that for Aaron Rodgers is going to get you the ball. Like he's going to get you do that for him. He's like, all right, you got my back. I'm going to get yours. I'm going to get you the ball. I liked what I saw from Metcalf. I actually think there's going to be more consistency than what we saw in Seattle, believe it or not. Even
Agreed.
though this is an offense that I do think is going to be lower passing volume, I do expect more consistency from him. Um, in this game, I also want to point out the tight ends, Jonnu Smith, Pat Frymuth, they're going to continue to cut into each other. Like I really do think that. I think it's going to be very unpredictable. I don't want to be invested in this tight end situation so long as everyone's healthy, right? It's pretty clear that Arthur Smith wants to use both of them. When you look at the numbers, right, they both lined up out of the slot often here. Over 40, or Jonnu Smith, 40%, Pat Frymuth, 65% slot route runs, right? So we know what they're going to do, but the problem is they both ran 18 routes. Yes, we have Jonnu Smith had 6 targets, Pat Frymuth had 3. I think next week it can easily reverse where Pat Frymuth sees 6, Jonnu Smith sees 3. It could happen. I'm out on this tight end situation. For me, it's the backfield and Caleb Johnson. I'm taking the wait and see approach. I like DK Metcalf. Aaron Rodgers, 2 quarterback situations only, though. Like 2 quarterback or super flex leagues. In a single quarterback league, let's not chase this. Like I've seen, oh, I have CJ Stroud, Aaron Rodgers is out there. Should I panic? And we're not doing that yet, guys. We're not doing that yet. I'm not expecting 4 touchdowns every week. I do expect that the Steelers defense will play to their level and will be in low scoring situations where they're leaning on the run. And I think that was a big issue yesterday. They couldn't lean on the run. They didn't have that guy that the bruiser to lean on. And I think that was an issue for the Steelers yesterday. And I think they're very well aware of that, Rich. So I think it's a matter of time before they unleash Caleb Johnson there. Any more thoughts on this game before we move on to a couple other situations I want to discuss?
Nope.
Travis Etienne. Travis
Hmm.
Etienne. Another situation where a lot of concerns were had going into the season on who's going to be the featured back. Is Liam Cohen going to run a full blown committee? Are there going to be 3 backs? Well, just like Brees Hall, it was ETN that dominated the opportunities and the snaps here in Jacksonville. 143 yards on Sunday against the Panthers. He had 13 receiving yards, 3 targets. I mean, 19 opportunities in week one, 14 more than Bigsby. Rich, what are we doing here? Do you think this is here to stay, or do you think this is more fluky than the Jets situation?
That's a really good question. It was interesting because Bigsby didn't have all the opportunities, but he did close out the game. He was the guy in there on in the fourth quarter. Not shocked it wasn't Tootin. Tootin actually did splash, right? I mean, he only got a couple opportunities, but he made good use of them. It's not like he turned them into touchdowns. I'm not there with ETN yet. Um, yeah, the numbers were there, but a lot of ETN's production came on 2 plays. Um, he did look better as far as my eye test. My biggest complaint on ETN, and this goes back to him coming out of college, I felt like he forced trying to bounce it to the outside all the time, going for the home run. Now, this offense, with the way the blocking is, that bodes a little bit well for him. So I understood Jeff's point when he talked about on air, he's a good fit. Part of me wonders, though, if we're seeing so much ETN because the team is still shopping him. I don't know that to be the case. You can never have enough running back depth in the NFL. Um, but I was not overly impressed necessarily with like the breaking tackles, the efficiency. There was nothing I saw from ETN that didn't look like what we've seen from ETN in the past that splashes. This doesn't seem to maintain and hold up. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I didn't grab ETN anywhere, but where he got drafted, you've got to be cautiously optimistic because you got him late enough. If this even holds up to 80% of what we saw this weekend, you hit a home run with where you drafted Travis Etienne. What's the likelihood this holds up at that level? 60%, I think. I mean, I think it's a little bit better than 50-50, but I'm still not sold that 8 weeks from now, we're not going to see Tootin. Or 6 weeks from now, we don't hear that ETN's been moved in a trade. This is the last year of his contract. This is a new staff than what drafted him. But if he performs like this, I think, and he is a good fit for the offense. Cautiously optimistic if you have him. If you don't have him, I am not actively selling the farm to go get him if you need a running back. I'm still holding on to my Bigsby and Tootin shares, but they are nothing more than handcuffs and stashes right now.
Yeah, I viewing it the same way. Like I am a little bit more optimistic on ETN, but you do bring up a great point. Are they shopping him? I don't know if that's the case, but we also have to keep in mind this is a good matchup as well, right? Like Carolina's,
Yeah.
defense is one you could run against. So it's also a good matchup here for him. I do think though, regardless, like right, what happens in the next couple of weeks, I think where you drafted him, he's going to return good value. I think
Yep.
even if this is not sustainable, I think he's going to do enough, right? And he's going to have a solidified enough role in this offense um to to return value. But again, it's week one. It was a good matchup. Like let's just temper expectations here in the upcoming weeks and see the usage if that sustains. I don't care about the production as much as the usage here for me. It's
Same.
just I just want to see I want to see the usage sustain here. And if it does, I think you're gonna hit a home run with your draft pick there where you got him. Let's talk a little bit about the Raiders here. Jacoby Myers, I think we expected him to be a big part of it. Brock Bowers, we talked about the injury already, but before the injury, he picked up right where he left off last season. I think it's going to be
Yep.
another phenomenal year. I think, obviously he's an elite tight end. He's the real deal. We don't really have to dive into it too much. Geno Smith, surprising, had a ton of yards as well. Ashton Jeanty, look, perfect example of you don't really care about the production, you care more about the opportunity,
Right.
right? I don't care that he didn't do all that great. Like he did score a touchdown, but the bottom line wasn't elite, wasn't super efficient, wasn't super productive. But guess what? 21 opportunities, 85.7% snap share. Boom. That's it. I don't care. I don't care what his week what numbers are. I now know it's like I got the guy that they're going to be utilizing a ton all season. There's no, like there's nothing else here that I'm seeing. For me, this is a win. If you drafted Genty, I drafted him in my home league. That was a win for me. Why? Because yes, he didn't perform to my expectations in week one, but I know now his role is
Volume.
cemented, like cemented. He is the running back that you mentioned before that you're hoping for that's going to get those 18 to 20 opportunities on a week-to-week basis. He is that.
He's it. Yep.
And I got that. And that's my takeaway from Genty. As far as Myers is concerned, there's really no surprise for me. 10 targets. Like I'm expecting this kind of volume from him on a consistent basis. Maybe not 10 every week because maybe they're not passing that many times every week. But I do expect him to be right there in the pecking order behind Bowers. I think in PPR formats, you got yourself a very safe floor on a week-to-week basis. And I think all those trade things, I think that's going to be put behind. And now it's football, guys. He's playing football. He's on the field. He's executing. So, any thoughts here on the Raiders?
I did not give Chip Kelly enough credit being hired as the offensive coordinator here. I think our expectations of Geno are too low. Look, Geno of a couple of years ago was a what, QB 12, QB 14 type, borderline QB 1. Nothing amazing, but good enough. I think Chip Kelly's going to get the most out of this offense. I don't know why Jacoby Myers was asking for a trade at some point because we kind of assumed he was going to get the volume with Adams being gone. There's only so much Bowers can do, right? I mean, someone had messaged me saying they thought Bowers would get 200 targets this year. I can't get there, but I think the target volume will be on par with last year, maybe slightly less, just because Gino will move the ball around a little bit more. He's not afraid to. I want to see Genty involved more in the passing game. That's really the only disappointment I had from a usage standpoint. And this Raider team, like typical Pete Carroll fashion, this Raider team is not going to be as bad as we all expected. This offense is going to be good enough to be competitive, and the defense is going to keep games close. This is going to, I will not be shocked if this is a 7-9 Raiders team, Armando. This has Pete Carroll's stamp all over it, which tells me Genty. I understand we've seen Carroll split, the backfield before, but we've also seen him lean on a guy. It depends on the pieces they have. So I expect Genty to see the volume. I expect Myers and Bowers to see the passing volume, and I think Geno Smith is going to be adequate. So it all those players outside of Bowers, I think you got at a well, maybe not Genty, but otherwise you got Geno and Myers at a discount. I think Genty's cost is fair for what he is, and I think Bowers might have been a little over cost for what we're going to get when it's end all be all at the end of the season, but close enough that it's not going to matter. I'm with you. This coaching and schemes matter, and I've got to give a hat tip to Chip Kelly right now, and I'm curious to see what he does with the offense rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think that this is an offense that's gonna, and the team in general, that's gonna kind of exceed expectations, right? As the
Agreed.
expectations were very low for them. But they do have good supporting, like good pieces. I don't want to say a great supporting cast, but they have good pieces on both sides of the football here. On the other side, like the Patriots didn't play to expectations, I think. I think they were a little bit
Agreed.
disappointing. But I'm not worried. Are you? I'm not.
No, Drake May showed what you expect from a second-year quarterback, right? The rushing was there. The passing wasn't as crisp at times as we have seen, which, in all fairness, has been kind of a knock on May coming out of college, right? Like he would sometimes get a little too juiced up and be a little over the top with the balls. Um, I think Henderson's going to end up getting worked in more. I do think we saw more Stevenson than we will come mid-season. Although I think that's a reminder that they are going to use two running backs. This idea that Henderson was going to somehow be a magical third down back or three down roll back, I think was foolish. That Stevenson was going to have a role, and that showed up very much. If anything, I think I was a little more disappointed with the Patriots defense. I expected Mike Vrabel to really have this defense playing a little better. But here again, it early in the season. Vrabel teams have historically kind of started slow. We've seen that with him when he was in Tennessee. We've seen that with him in New England. The defense will get better. I think the offense, they're kind of finding their own identity right now. I will say this, Demario Douglas, that's the guy, and Butte got a lot of work. I don't know what to make of Butte, to be quite honest, Mondo. I'd be curious to your takes. He saw more volume than I thought, but it looks like to me Douglas is the slot guy. I'm kind of targeting that slot guy. Diggs was fine. May move the ball around, so they've given him some pieces. We got lucky with Douglas catching the touchdown, but he is still the one that's kind of on my radar. But I was kind of shocked with the volume that Butte saw. I really was.
Oh man, yeah, I'm shocked, and I want to keep a close eye on it. I look at him as a speculative ad. He was someone in best ball I was targeting in the final two rounds of my drafters best ball drafts because it was kind of like a steady drumbeat as far as like what expectations were. I know he was dealing with injuries
Right.
and he was kind of sidelined for a while, but expectations were always pretty high, I guess you could say, within the beat writers and things like that. So for me, it was a speculative draft, like I no really strong take or anything, but I do think that 8 targets. I mean, leading the team in route participation. I do think that that's something you have to take note of, right? We talk about volume and opportunities, and I'm in on that. Like I want to check it out. So I do think like if you are in a league where you have decent bench sizes or whatnot, PPR format, he's someone you kind of add. You don't have to start them. You don't have to chase the volume. We're not saying that, but definitely someone that if this continues, and again, Stephon Diggs is a veteran receiver. He's returning from injury. You just never know. like Boutte could carve out a pretty good role. But like you mentioned, it was Douglas that had the slot receiving, right? Like he was 85% of his routes were out of the slot. The next guy was Stephon Diggs, 29.7, then Hunter Henry. I really like what I saw from Hunter Henry too, man.
Agreed.
He was second on the team in route participation. He had 8 targets as well. 4 catches there. So for me, I like what I saw. He's someone that I think that's here to stay. Like I feel like, and again, it's not doesn't mean 8 targets, but it means a 20% target share is here to stay, right? Like I feel like that's what he's going to be
For
on the
tight end,
field
it's
a lot.
good.
Dude, that's great. I mean, if you're getting 5 to 7 targets on a consistent basis every week, you're giving
At
me a
tight
pretty.
end, that's a floor that you don't. This is the sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Armando, but we get so many tight end questions, and I have this discussion all the time. You know, I will take the good and bad at the tight end. If I have a tight end that's getting 5 to 7 targets a week, that's a win. I yes, give me. I would love to have Kelsey, but even the Kelsey in his heyday had games where he only got 2 to 3 targets, right? So a young quarterback that's willing to lean on, and we know quarterbacks and tight ends, it's a lot of chemistry, personality type of thing. But if you're going to get me a tight end at 5 to 7 targets a game, Mondo, how many tight ends really give us that on a weekly basis?
Yeah, not many.
10, 8?
Yeah, you got yourself a volume base. You got a top 12 guy just based on volume. Like that's what you're getting. So yeah, I agree, man. So I like and I think Diggs. I mean, fit right into what they're doing. I think he's going to be just fine. I know the production wasn't significant, but give you 11.7 fantasy points in PPR settings. I think that's fine in week one. Like, like new team, new
For what?
offense for what he is, right?
I'm going to say, was he an eighth round draft pick?
Exactly. Like he's more than likely your wide receiver 4 in a lot of leagues, some wide receiver 5. Like he's probably my wide receiver 6 in some of these the way I draft, right? Like, um, I think that's fine. I think that's perfectly fine. I think it's only going to get better for him. I just was happy to see that he was out there. He had 7 targets. He ran 37 routes. Like, I'm good with this. Like, I'm just good with that. Like, that's what I want to see here. All right, Rich, let's anything else. All right, so we could rapid fire now the next couple of if there's anything else. I do want to talk about the Baltimore and the Bills. I do want to
Okay.
discuss that. But if there's anything quick fire that you want to discuss here, let's anything we haven't talked about. Maybe the Tampa Bay, like Buka had a great first game. We could talk
Well,
about.
I tell you what, that's going to be interesting because I just saw a report that Godwin's supposed to return to practice this week.
I saw that too.
So is Ibuka going to continue, or are we going to see that workload be aided into a little bit? I think that's interesting. All the RJ Harvey folks out there, look, we're going to see a split in Denver. I think the usage was fair. I still want action on Harvey. Dobbins is going to be the red zone back. Chris Rodriguez is a smokescreen. I think that at this point is what it is. So understand that. He's a handcuff at best. Trying to think of any of the other major
I
takeaways
got
from.
one for you. So I want to point this one out. Cooper Kupp ran 50% of his routes out of the slot. Jackson Smith and Jigba only 32% of his routes out of the slot.
Ooh,
So, but Jigba had a huge game. Nine
he
catches,
did.
124 yards, 13 targets. Like the volume's going to be there for Jigba. And it worked in week one as far as working along the outside. But this is a new thing for him. This is someone that was primarily the slot receiver last season for Seattle. He did well in his new role here in week one, but again, something to keep an eye on. I did want to point that out because I do think it's important. Cooper Kupp
It is.
operated as the primary slot receiver for Seattle in week one, and I think that's here to stay. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. I don't see Cooper Kupp lining outside all that much. And not more not less than Jig, but that's for sure. But I did want to point that out because I know that
Good call out.
we did not know what was going to happen there, but now we do know what's going to happen there. Um, let's dive into this Buffalo and Bills. Like, I was huge on Kean Coleman last year. That was a big swing and miss for me. I'll tell you what, I watched him play yesterday, and he is everything I thought he was going to be. Like I think he's going to be very good. He created a big spark, had some big moments yesterday. I hope this continues in year two because I bought in again. He was someone I was buying in again at his price. And if he can emerge as that number one receiver for Buffalo, they're going to be a very dangerous team, I think, this season. And I was impressed with the young man yesterday. Any thoughts on him? And then overall with this offense, I think we all know Josh Allen is fucking phenomenal. Like, guys, it's just
Yeah.
like supernatural fucking talent is what it is. But any takeaways outside of the great Josh Allen for this offense?
Boy, he just wills your team to victory, right?
Oh,
Um, I
oh,
was I was I want to say surprised by Coleman's volume. There are still things I see for him that annoy me. Like some of the drops he had. He had two drops that really drove me nuts yesterday. Um, and I was like, this is why I struggle getting in on Coleman. At the same time, that touchdown catch at the end that was tipped, mad props, right? That's not, I mean, it's deflected and he was where he was supposed to be. The ball was off a little bit. It got tipped, but way to stay into the game, way to stay on top of it and make a heck of a play. He did flash for me. And they need someone like that because Shakir is not that kind of guy. Elijah Moore is not that kind of guy. And as much as we want Josh Palmer to be that kind of guy, he's also not that kind of guy. He may be the bigger body, the better hands, but he doesn't have the juice that Coleman does, right? One of the big knocks on Coleman coming out was the drops and kind of the mental lapses he would have, it seemed like at times. I saw him being effective out there. I saw him being in the right place at the right time. I'm cautiously optimistic there. I've been very much out on him, and I'm probably going to regret it at his cost this year. Unlike Quentin Johnston, I feel like Coleman does use his hands, does a better job of being a complete receiver versus just somebody that's an athlete that if you get the ball in their hands is dangerous. Coleman is more of he can get you the first downs. He can be that possession guy. He can be a little bit more of the guy that stretches the field because Shakir really truly is the possession guy. Um, and Kincaid flashed at times. I've been out on Kincaid, so I'm probably going to take some hate this week. Although I still argue the volume just won't be there for Kincaid. You're going to get a touchdown here and there. You're going to get a big game here and there, but I don't think you can count on it. I think if there is anybody we want to turn to, I think you're right, Mondo. We better keep our eye on Keenan Coleman. And if he turns into this guy, this offense takes a step forward.
yes, yes. And the move he put on Alexander, dude. I
That was
mean,
nice.
that
That
was
was nice.
I don't see Alexander fall to the floor that often. I really don't. It was a good move. Alexander still got the tackle too, by the way. That was great play on his end. Like I know he got the move shook him, but he got the hand out. That would have been I think a pretty easy touchdown for Coleman. He did have some drops like you mentioned. But man, overall, I was very impressed with his performance, and I do think this if he takes that leap forward to where at least I thought he could be as a receiver, I think this is going to be a tough offense here. And I couldn't agree more with you, Kincaid. Listen, four targets, 48 yards, a touchdown. Like you take away the touchdown, no one's going to be busting your fucking balls about, oh, hey, you no, man. I think it's going to
And
be
it was
very
a
tough.
long touchdown. It
I
was
know.
what, 20 yards? So, I
I,
mean,
it,
half his yards came from the one play with the touchdown, and Knox had a big play. And then the other tight end, the backup or whatever,
yeah,
it
Jackson
just,
Halls.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then on the other side, listen, Derrick Henry. I don't even know.
Such a
I don't.
dummy.
How the fuck does she? How do you still run at that level, dude? The guy was
Dude,
a freight
the
train.
run down the sidelines where he just pulled away from everybody. It's like, they made a big deal about the stiff arm because like Chris Collinsworth said, this is an NFL athlete that is 204 pounds and just got shoved to the ground like it's a little kid, right? I mean, I'm in on Henry. Lamar's going to be fine. These two teams have got to be perennial favorites to make Super Bowl runs, Armando. They
Yes.
really do. And the Ravens defense, for the most part, held together. I mean, like I was telling people last night, with 4:48 to go, the Bills were still down 15 points. This was the Ravens game. Josh Allen just willed them back into it. And that fumble by Derrick
Henry.
Henry, oh my gosh, that he's going to be sick about it, but it's not like he fumbles much. That was the difference in the game. That fumble doesn't happen, the Ravens win that game. It just so happened there's a fumble, and Josh Allen made sure they capitalized on it, and that's what made the game. But these two teams are going to be fun to watch all year. We're not going to get them to play each other all year, but I tell you what, whoever plays them each week is going to be in for a battle.
Yep, I agree 100%. And then one more thing, Zay Flowers, 9 targets, 7 receptions, 143 yards, touch on massive game there. I do think he's
Luke,
always gonna, yeah, I do think he's always gonna be the primary guy, but I don't think that's gonna be the kind of volume he gets on a consistent basis. Mark Andrews was very barely involved. Hopkins had a beautiful catch. He only had 2 targets, but he had a beautiful one-handed catch for a touchdown. I think that's kind of what you're gonna see from Hopkins, right? Like those sporadic, like production
2 to 3, 4
weeks.
targets a game at most.
Yeah. But I would be cautious when it comes to Flowers as far as don't expect 9 targets every week. I would be more in that 5 to 6 range consistent with these kind of weeks where you have 8, 9, 10. But I wouldn't expect this kind of, volume each and every week. Rich, let's dive into a couple of just quick hits on some waiver wire selections. We've kind of alluded
Okay.
to some already here. Um, Quarterback, I think when you look at everything, it's going to be Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Michael Penix, and then Aaron Rodgers. For the most part, these are two quarterback super flex leagues. Guys, for me, I'm not really looking to start any of them in a single quarterback league right away. Especially we talked about Daniel Jones. He might be the one that I consider, but not in week two. Um, any other quarterbacks or any thoughts on any of those four guys?
I'm with you on those four guys. And in Superflex 2 QB leagues, I would consider Spencer Rattler. He
Yeah.
didn't look ridiculously bad like he has in the past. But the big thing for me, 46 passing attempts. So I expect that to continue because I don't think the Saints defense is all that. So I think the volume for Rattler will be there. He is an afterthought. Nobody wants him because, he could be benched at any time, and that's true. But I got to be frank, he didn't look terrible. I mean, as a guy that kind of liked Rattler a little bit coming out of college, I can see what I liked a little bit from yesterday's game. I see why he started over Tyler Schlock. Schlock, I can never pronounce his name properly,
Shook.
but Shook. Uh, but I tell you what, for Superflex 2 QB leagues, if Rattler's out there, go ahead and roster him. You might find yourself needing him a time or two throughout the year. And I'll be frank, Armando, I won't be shocked if Rattler's the starter the rest of the year.
There you go. Rattler, Adam, there if you're in a two quarterback league. A couple running backs I wrote down here. Trey Benson, I think he's a must add. I think the fact that he's still available in over 30-40% of some leagues is
That's
mind-boggling to
insane.
me. That's
That's insane.
mind-boggling to me. So for me, if he's not available in 100% of the leagues, you should go get him. Like I'm going to continue to recommend him if he's available, right? I think Dylan Sampson, you and I talked about him as well. I think if he's out there, you can go get him. I think you're looking more of a short-term, long-term lens right there with Sampson. And then DJ Giddens to me, like I know
Yes.
the numbers, whatever. I pay attention and I if Taylor misses any time, they're gonna lean on Giddens based on what I've seen. I think they're comfortable. I think that's what they were doing. They were kind of seeing what they got in him. I thought he did a good job there, running behind a good offensive line. So someone that if Taylor misses, I think can earn 12 to 15 opportunities, like we discussed, potentially more, right? So Giddens, I would go get him now while the cost is still cheap. Any other running backs that you think we should be adding or looking at this week?
No, but I want to say this. Um, I'd much rather roster a Giddens than an Ollie Gordon or a Jalen Wright.
Yes.
So
Or even
if you're
Judkins, if we're being honest. Even Judkins
yes,
to a
Judkins,
certain
yes.
extent.
Yes, yes. No, I'm with you because there's a lot of murkiness and cloudiness with Judkins. If you have a free roster spot and you don't mind holding on to a guy hoping that literally the last 4 weeks of the season you could use him, that's Judkins, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you can really gain from him now. He's going to be clogging up the roster for the next 2 to 4 to 6 weeks. But when we talk about guys to drop and chase and stashing players, I would much rather stash a Giddens than the guys in Miami because one, it's going to be murky, and I think Miami's going to struggle. You could kind of look at a couple of backfields that way, right? So I would much rather have the solid handcuff that I know who the handcuff is on a team that I know is going to run well versus like Chris Rodriguez. I'd probably rather roster Giddens than Chris Rodriguez
Yeah,
because
I never recommend Rodriguez.
if Bill goes down and Rodriguez does start to get more work, I still think you see McNichols, you still see Eckler. Whereas if Taylor goes down, I think you see 70% Giddens out there. So This is why I say chase the potential volume versus potential points. I want the potential volume. So when folks are asking us, can I drop this guy, go get this guy? Understand your rosters and what you want. Are you looking for flex points because you need to make sure you're band-aided for the next few weeks with buys? Or are you looking for security if something happens? It's two completely different ways to look at an approach, but you need to understand which way you're going to do it. So I'm 100% with you there on Giddens.
Yeah, I agree with that thought process as well, man. All right, receivers. Should be some receivers here that you think should be taken off waivers.
Well, if Douglas is out there, Demario Douglas, I think that's one to consider because he was definitely going late, and I think Butte was going late. These are two guys that were going in the last couple of rounds of drafts. I think you need to consider them. Um,
I got
I
Keenan
don't know.
Allen, Butte. I got Keenan
Yep.
Allen, Butte, Tillman. And then again,
Tillman's one. Tillman's one.
some of these guys are probably going to be like 40-50% owned in some of these leagues, right? Small, like depending on where you're playing and the size of your league and stuff like that. But the fact that they're still available in about 50% of the leagues, like we have to recommend it. They might not be available in your league. You might be in a deeper league. None of these guys might even be there. But there's still a lot of these players are still available in at over 50% of some of these leagues. So this is why we're seeing some of these names. So like Quentin Johnson is someone that if he's out there, I will take a shot at. I'm not going to take a shot at him and start him right away. That's not what we're doing with some of these guys. It's one of those, okay, we're going to add them and see. Am I going to overspend on any of these? Probably not. But like Quentin Johnson, Hollywood Brown, Keenan Allen, I like the role that Keenan Allen, and we tend to forget like there's a history there with Herbert and Allen, so it's not like it's
Right.
new, right? There's a history. The issue with Allen is age and durability. That's
Injury.
it. Tillman and Bude were the ones that I really, to me stood out. I'm going to keep an eye on Michael Wilson. I do want to keep an eye on him, but I'm not going to add him just yet.
He's got me concerned because that was one of the games I did the breakdown on, Armando. He was rotated out of two wide receiver sets.
Yes.
Zay Jones ate into some of that. Greg Dortch ate into a tiny little bit of that. Now, all three receiver sets, Michael Wilson was out there, to your point. So that is something to watch. The one that I am kind of in on is Tillman
Yes.
because at the end of last year, Judy was just seeing ridiculous volume. Well, Fannin led the team in targets, but the next two were tied in Judy and Tillman. So that tells me that they're willing to use Tillman about as much as they're willing to use Judy. And Tillman, unfortunately, the last interception went right through Tillman's hands. I mean, literally, he had it, popped it up, and that's the interception that led to the end of the game. As long as Flacco's the quarterback, I'm comfortable using some of these Brown receivers because I feel like he's still usable. He's not someone that have a high expectation for, but he will throw the ball, unlike, say, an Anthony Richardson. And I don't know what we'd get from a Dylan Gabriel or Shador Sanders at this point yet. I don't think they're ready. But Tillman is one that if he's out there, I think that's a wide receiver 3-4 you can look at. I really do.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think you could definitely use him in the flex if you need to, if you're in a bind or
Yeah.
injuries or whatnot. And we forget like Judy was very involved, but Tillman was injured last year. He missed some time. So like that's another thing to consider there. Tight ends, I think we've discussed most of them, but I'll rapid fire. Hunter Henry, Juwan Johnson, and Harold Fanning are the three guys I would be looking to add right now.
Yep.
If Kyle Pitts is available, I like the usage. We really didn't dive into
Yep.
that too much, but I do like the usage in week one. I might be able to sustain here, especially if Drake London is bothered by that shoulder injury. But I know he's not available. Like I think he's 70% owned in most of these leagues. So
Right.
I try to avoid those kind of players. But if he is there, I did want to mention his name. I didn't include him in the article for that reason. But we're talking now, and I think that he's somebody you could definitely consider.
The
This
best he looked. That was the best
it
he's looked. Was
it
he
is
looked
it is
legitimate yesterday. He really did.
it is, and I think I think those opportunities are here to stay rich. All right, well, this we basically dove into it all. We talked about week one, we talked about waivers, injuries, all of that stuff. Rich, any final thoughts here before we jump off?
Hat tip to Justin Herbert. As a Justin Herbert stand and truther, boy, it's nice to see Greg Roman open up the offense a little bit and let Justin Herbert do his thing. I mean, super efficient. I will say this. I know you mentioned Quentin Johnston. He will be in my buy sell article as a sell If you have Johnston, I'm selling, and here's why. He's still body catching. He did this last year. He was a monster body catcher the first 3 weeks of the year last year, and then he disappeared from our fantasy lineups, and his inability to catch showed its ugly head again. I'm doing the exact same thing with Quentin Johnston this year. I expect a couple of nice weeks to start the season. I don't know that this holds up. So if I can sell Johnston at a high point, I'm willing to do so. But hat tip to Justin Herbert. That was he gets knocked a lot for not being able to pull it out or be counted on or be clutch. I don't think that's ever been the case. I just think, things sometimes don't come to fruition. But boy, everything we've wanted from Herbert showed out this past week. And look, I like Harbaugh as a coach. I'm excited to see what these Chargers bring. Do not panic on Amari and Hampton. It will be fine.
It's funny. I told my uncle, I spoke with him Friday morning, and I told him, I think the Chargers are that sleeper team this year.
Yes.
Because I think they have a good supporting cast. I've always been a believer in Justin Herbert, like, since he entered the NFL. I thought he was going to be a project, and he immediately shut my mouth up. And I think he's been super good since entering the NFL. I just think he's been dealt a pretty bad hand at times, right? Like, I just feel like that's what it's been here. But I agree, man. I am looking forward to watching this team because I do think that they're going to be making some noise in the AFC this year. Maybe they're not at the level of Buffalo and Baltimore. I think it's very difficult because I look at those two teams as like elite teams. And until you knock down the Chiefs, they're still going to be the Chiefs, in my opinion. But I look at Buffalo and look at Baltimore. I'm like, these are two well-oiled machines right now, and it's going to be very difficult to beat them. But yeah, I have high expectations for the Chargers this year. Rich, this was fun, man. I always enjoy talking football with you. Make sure you're checking out all of Rich's work there at fantasyguru.com. On Tuesdays, he has the buy, sell, cut article. Wednesdays, he has the weekly streamers. Friday, he has a start sit. He's also knee deep in the NASCAR business. So make sure you're checking all of his work out there at fantasyguru.com. Rich, I appreciate you hopping on with me and talking some football,
Hey,
man. Always a great time. You
my
can find
pleasure.
all, yes, brother. Yes, always a good time. You and I could be here talking for multiple hours, not one, not two, not three, 4, 5, 6 hours. It's always a good time. Always great information that you bring to the table here. You can find all of my work as well over at fantasyguru.com. I've got the Red Zone review. I'll be on Tuesday live stream, roster coach, 7 p.m. Eastern time there with Tyler Beaker, Russell Clay. Rich Maletto can also be found on that show and sometimes. So make sure you're checking that out. I got the Red Zone review. We got the weekly staff picks. I got the snap share coming down. I got the Friday, another podcast coming out. Chris Rose and I will be breaking down this week's DFS late. And then on Sunday mornings, you can catch me every Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern on fantasyguru.com talking DFS with Chris Rose live there, and Discord from 11:30 a.m. Eastern till kickoff every single Sunday. Rich, myself, Tyler Beaker, Jeff Mance, Ted Schuster, Chris Rose, everyone there helping out, answering questions. So make sure you're checking all of that out there. Rich, we covered a ton of ground today, recapped week one, talked about some injuries, talked about some waiver wires, and some thoughts here. It was a good one. Remember, folks, if you're enjoying the podcast, if you're enjoying the episode, please make sure you follow, rate, review, like the podcast wherever it is you are tuning in. You can find me on the Twitter machine at Armando_Marsal, as well as on Instagram threads and TikTok at Mind the Marsal. Hopefully you enjoyed this journey through the Mind the Marsal. Until next time.